Ask Mel is brought to you by International Cricket Tours. ICT specialise in delivering overseas cricket holidays with a personal touch. So whether it's Ashes, Sri Lanka or New Zealand, if you're thinking about following England abroad this winter, look no further than International Cricket Tours.
Okay, day 5 of the second test, England versus India, Edgbaston. Let's ask Mel. And let's start asking Mel, Occidental tourist, hello.
Aussie.
Do the chasing victories outweigh the thumping defeats?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, but I'm not sure it's a zero-sum game when it comes to one or the other. I guess you're probably going to look at series. If you win a series, are you going to worry about the 1 or 2 possibly thumping defeats if you win the series? I don't know if you'd worry about it that much. So I don't know. I think it's part of a bigger picture. This felt like a different defeat, if that makes sense, even though I know that some of the other ones in this era have been big defeats. They've generally been England going flat out in a big chase and then it all collapses in a heap. This was very different. I mean, Ben Stokess has kind of admitted now that they knew it was beyond them, despite all of Marcus Trescothick's sort of fudging that we heard at the end of day 4. But they just kind of went out and battered normally. They weren't going, oh, it's windy and that camera's shaking. But they weren't going all out.
Or is it the stadium?
Yeah, it's probably the stadium's about to fall down. But yeah, so it felt a bit different. In this series, we saw the way that they chased in that first game, and then the way here that there was a bit of a realisation that the way they play had made India do something that probably wouldn't be done. Like, you know, normally when you're setting a team a target in the 4th innings, you're trying to find that balance of wanting to give them a sniff so that they'll go for it. And you don't have to give England a sniff. So I guess all of that is a long way around about a way of saying, no, I think this England team is changing a little bit. And not changing, but growing maybe a little bit in how they approach things. And if England end up winning this series, will you mind that there was a thumping defeat here at Edgbaston?
It did make me think last night, actually, when we were talking about how the England fans sort of received the idea of trying to chase 608. How much do people, apart from the Ashes, how much do people really care about series? Sure, they're just here for the vibes. They're just here for the fun. They're just here for the fun of it. Really, I think sometimes. I think maybe sometimes we think in the media that these series are a bit more important than they actually are, and that people just like to see a bit of fun.
Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I don't think people care about series. No. Don't you?
I don't think people care about the Anderson.
I don't think people sitting in the Hollies stand who've come here this week. I think there are a lot of those who won't care about the series. I don't know, you tell us. We live in this weird world where we think all kinds of things matter that don't. I do think people care about the series, though. So, certainly some series, certainly this series. I think there'll be people who care about it. And the Ashes. And every other series.
Well, definitely the Ashes. I think that goes without saying. They care about the Ashes even when we're not doing the Ashes. JB asks our next question. This is on a similar line, I guess. When does the vanity project of winning the toss and batting second stop on featherbed pitches?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, is it a vanity project? Or is it the best way for this England side to win, that they feel they're going to win? Featherbed pitches, is that also the best way England think they have of getting a win? So I'm not sure if it's just about the glory of chasing a big total. I do think that there's probably some thought in what their strengths are that goes into both of those things, about batting last and about the featherbed pitches. I'd be quite happy not to have all the featherbed pitches, though, by the way. So maybe it's sometimes a mistake as well. We saw that the conditions actually, in the end, played out pretty well for India. They had the best, certainly, when it came down to this last innings. So, yeah, it's a funny one, but I'm not sure that it is a vanity project in and of itself. What do you reckon?
I think they are 100%. I think you've nailed it. And they are playing to what they think their strengths are. I don't think this is a vanity project. I don't think they're trying to prove anything to anyone by chasing enormous scores. I think actually they're chasing enormous scores because they're getting the first part of the game wrong. I don't think they're embarking on going, well, I can't wait to chase 608 on this on day 4 and 5. Let's go for it, lads. I think ultimately they are playing to what they think is, and also, frankly, let's be honest, they've kind of proven that it is a strength. Okay, fine, you don't want to be chasing 400 every time, or 608 in this instance. They have kind of proven that it is their strength. Like England's best wins during this era have arguably come when they've been chasing. So I think it's Owen Morgan's England. They played to their strengths. That wasn't a vanity project, was it? They're just far more better at what they had a better strategy, I guess, and it worked a lot better. So no, I think it's unfair to call this a vanity project. I think it's just the fact that they've got huge conviction in their beliefs, and they refuse to accept sometimes when they're wrong. I guess that's why it's often derided as, say, a fantasy project in this instance.
Fair enough.
Was that okay?
No, it was terrible.
It was shocking. Yeah. Once again, God, you should have seen the first take.
The Cricketers award-winning team brings our subscribers news, features and insight on county and international cricket every single day. You can try us now by signing up for £1. Yes, you heard that correctly, just £1 at thecricketer.com/digital.
Will Calling is asking our next question. Hello, Will. Would a player with Ben Stokes' recent record even get to bat at number 7? A lot of sides would have more reliable number 8s than he is today with the bat.
I actually thought it might do him good, or might have done him good, particularly if he'd stayed out there for another sort of 7 or 8 overs, because he still looks like someone who just hasn't done a lot of batting.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean, I don't think he's suddenly a worse batter than he was before. We know what he's done, but he has just looked like someone who's kind of just not spent enough time in the middle batting. That's just what it's looked like to me. So I know we've talked about Jamie Smith and how eventually, surely, he will end up batting higher. But when you look at what's below, I think Ben Stokes is probably still the all-rounder that they want to have there. And I think he'll come back. I do genuinely think he'll come back with the bat.
Also, I think Ben Stokes' worst enemy in this debate is Ben Stokes, in the sense that his standards are so enormously high. We think of Cape Town and we think of Headingley, and that's kind of what we think of Ben Stokes now. At number 7, since the start of 2022, he averages just under 30. For number 7s, okay, fine, that doesn't compare that favourably with lots of number 7s. Actually, really not that terrible. And he's going to take wickets. He's going to be a number 4 seamer. That's not awful. I think there's 200s in that period as well. One of them, obviously, that Lord's 100 against Australia.
What I did see something today that I'm sure I've never seen before. And when he was out there batting with Jamie Smith, India spread the field for Ben Stokes for the final ball of the over to give him a single so he could retain the strike and keep Jamie Smith off the strike. I've seen teams spread the field. I mean, you talk about, Lords in Australia, when they were spreading the field, precisely hoping that he might just miscue one slightly or not get all of it and be caught on the boundary. But for me, that was a bizarro world kind of moment, and something that I don't think I ever thought I would see. Very bizarre.
Yeah, I wonder if Ben Stokes does go down, that actually it's a different batter that's actually above him. I wonder if it's a complete reshuffle, and that's when we see the Ben Stokes dropping down moment. But yeah, for now, I think probably just his own worst enemy at this point. I suspect. I'm sure there's a bit more still to come there. Rob Smith's going to sign us off for the Test match by asking, should opposing teams always bat on longer than usual against this England team to completely remove the chance of England winning? I thought what was interesting, something I really didn't give a think of to yesterday, was how India, we sort of talked about in a sort of, I guess, tongue-in-cheek way, that England wanted to chase this, or wanted to go after it at least. Actually, what they did was completely eliminate all hope whatsoever. And isn't that kind of the lifeblood of this team, I guess? Hope?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, like I said, it was a different loss to the other ones we've seen, and it's the first time we've really seen England admit that there was something that they couldn't chase, particularly once we lost 10 overs because of the delayed first session. But even before that, realistically, it was never ever going to happen. But now, what was the question again? I don't know.
Rob Smith, yeah. So
Yes.
should opposing teams back on longer than usual to kind of do what India did?
Yeah. So
basically?
look, in the end, you have to say, we were thinking, certainly there were thoughts at the time that Shubman Gill, they were waiting too long because there was that threat of rain around. And were they, giving themselves enough time to bowl England out if they lost overs, what that might mean? Could England get a big partnership together again, and all of a sudden, can you imagine if England had got to stumps with 2 wickets in hand or something? You'd be absolutely spewing if you were into it. All ifs, maybes, and coulda, woulda, shoulda. But it does show you, I think, that England's reputation has become their 12th player in forcing teams to look at them other ways. And I do think that the oppositions are going to look at the targets that they do get set in England if they are in that in that position to set a total in the 4th innings. You've got to put yourself in that position, and if you do put yourself in the position where you're able to dictate terms to this England team, then absolutely you should put it. The other thing they did, remember, is that they put a hell of a lot of overs into England. That this side, I mean, basically England have spent 3 days out in the field as opposed to India's 2. So you imagine India will be they were joking about that. Shubman Gill was joking about how he didn't actually have to tire out his bowlers because they weren't out there for that long. And that's another factor about the way England played the game too. So yeah, I think it's a very sound tactic. If you're playing England, score a shed load of runs and then give yourself enough time to bowl them out. Sounds like a tactic to me.
We are reinventing Test cricket by the video. So I think that's our last question of the Test match, of the day. That's the last of the Test match, indeed. We will obviously be back at Lords.
Where
Mel,
you can ask George.
Mel will be back at Lords. George will be back at Lords. We've kept him on for another test. Yeah. It's a tough one. Thank you so much for all your contributions over the last couple of days. They've been worthwhile because the cricket has at times been pretty tricky. Jared has ruined the outro of this, so we're just going to wrap this up.
You are such a...